Call the meeting to order. Shane, would you do the, I guess I'll do the invocation, and if you would follow with flag salute. Father God, as always, we're always grateful to be in your presence and be able to serve our community. Father God, I just ask that you give us the wisdom and clarity and the good ideas to serve our community well. It's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Thank you. Would you call the roll, please?
Thomas Newsom.
Here.
Whitney Kerr. Here. Clinton Horner.
Here.
Shane Knight.
Here.
Drew Jackson.
Here. Will we be voting online or verbally today? Verbally. Okay, thanks. First order of business under consent items is the consideration of approval of regular meeting minutes for August 1st.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call for a vote, please?
Thomas Newsom.
Yes.
Whitney Kerr. Yes. Clinton Horner.
Yes.
Shane Knight.
Yes.
Drew Jackson.
Yes. Moving to the public hearing portion under 3A, discussion, consideration, and possible action on PC 2023-21, a final plat request for Sunstar LLC for property located near South 9th Avenue and Rodeo Road. Mr. Hightower, how are you?
I'm fine. How are y'all?
Lots. It's total of 24 acres with 80 lots being shown on the final plat. It does meet the requirements for the zoning. The preliminary plat showed 85 lots, but however 5 lots were removed for drainage. This does fall in line with the future land use map, and the staff recommends approval.
You know if there's been any changes since the preliminary or planned?
Not that I know of.
Had one question. We saw the final plat on phase 1 already, or are they doing phase 2 first?
This is phase 2. It's only actually 30 lots that you're accepting because you've already accepted 50.
That's what I was thinking. Okay.
So it will be 30 lots of phase 2 will be what you're accepting.
Gotcha.
So, I did have a question. Is any part of what's covered by this plat, is it involved in the currently pending lawsuit between Sunstar and a whole bunch of other people for some sort of issue on a corner of that property?
We did not have, we went out and we didn't have any phone calls or letters of support or protest regarding this final plat. So I don't know about the lawsuit. Buddy might be able to.
Hear the full question.
So, my question was, is any part of the land that's covered by this plat involved in the lawsuit that's pending with Sunstar and a whole bunch of other people?
No, the land is not. The
Okay.
land is, now there is we have a lawsuit against some people because, as you know, it got split in two because we bought land that, come to find out, wasn't the person that sold it to us. Now, there is a lawsuit against that, but the land is not involved in it.
Okay, that was my question, is just if
Right, because
if we
the
were
guy
gonna have
I'm
any
suing did not
landline
own it,
issues
so
or-
he,
I just wanted to be sure we weren't gonna have any landline issues that were gonna cause plat issues.
no, the
Okay.
title is cleared now.
Any other questions for staff or the applicant?
I just have a random question. So this property is very close to the airport. Are there any? Is there any
notification requirements for buyers to know? Is there any restrictions based on what can be built or usage based on its proximity to the airport?
I don't think so, because they've already built some homes there.
Well, I think there's a general height restriction, but the height is so far above what any individual homeowner would be looking at because of the airport.
Yeah, just really more curious about any disclosures when the property is sold to a potential homeowner that they're potentially going to have airplanes flying over their property a lot.
So typically in an abstract or something like that, there would be a notice that it's within so many feet or so many acre, it's within proximity to an airport. There wouldn't be specifically any notice that, hey, you're gonna have planes flying overhead. It would just be more of a, hey, there's a height restriction requirement because there's an airport not that far away.
My understanding, it's so many feet from the end of a runway.
Yeah.
So I don't think this applies.
I've just flown over this property quite frequently, and there's a lot of planes that are going to be going over that property. So,
Any other questions? Any discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thanks, I did not. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or opposition of? Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Call for a vote, please.
Thomas Newsom,
yes.
Whitney Kerr,
Yes.
Clint Horner,
Yes.
Shane Knight,
Yes.
Drew Jackson.
Yes. Motion passes. 3B, discussion, consideration, and possible action on PC 2023-22, a replat request for Baptist General Council of Oklahoma for property located near Wilson Street and Montgomery Drive.
One quick note, I'm going to recuse myself from this since I'm involved in the project. So I'm going to stand down there and answer any questions for you.
The applicant approached staff regarding the platting of this property with a desire of building a new religious facility to serve students of southeastern Oklahoma State University and surrounding communities. It's approximately 1.23 acres as shown on the plat. There's city water nearby and city sewer available. It does fall in line with the future land use map. Staff has signed off support and approval of this replat since the plat does meet all requirements. And we did not have any objection letters or phone calls.
You said this conforms to zoning. I think the map that's presented shows this is ag.
Do what?
I think the map that is shown in our packet shows this as agriculture.
Yes, part of it, A1.
Is that correct? That's ag?
Yes, I think this property is currently ag.
Is there plans to rezone? I assume this is a commercial use.
This would be a commercial use, yeah. They had a building on this lot and it was condemned and they had to tear it down. So now they're rebuilding a new building that's a little bit bigger. So that's the reason for the replat, to adjust that interior lot line. But yes, it would be commercial use.
Is the plan to have a request to rezone as well?
Yes.
Okay. So my understanding is that there are 3 lots with the same owner. The southern 2 lots, you're basically moving the boundary between. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the plan is to build on the western lot?
That is correct. Be the southwest of that. That
Okay.
southwest corner is what they're planning to build. Then there'd be an sort of an upside down L shape left over from that.
Can you speak to what the plans are regarding Montgomery Drive, and if there's any master plans to move that?
I can, yes. So actually, I brought some additional information to pass out to everyone. So if you look at the color printout that I provided to you, you can see where the future plan that's in the master plan for the university is to actually move Montgomery Drive to the north, so that this property will eventually abut Montgomery Drive as opposed to abutting the shared parking lot between the Baptist Convention and the university. Have you seen that?
You may have already been asked this. Is there a timetable to this?
I do not know the timetable to that.
So there is a plat in our packet. Do you know what the difference is between the
Yeah,
one that you?
the plat in your packet and the plat that I just gave you, the plat that I just gave you shows both pieces of property after the replat. The one that you have in your packet was zoomed in on just one piece of property.
But there weren't any changes?
No changes to the dimensions. It's just a bigger view to show both pieces that were impacted.
Can we put the screen on page 22, please? So what's shown is somewhat of an L shape made out of 3 parcels, owned all by the same. So we've got 1 to the north, 2 to the south.
Yeah, that's a little bit deceiving, that image.
Okay.
So the area that is shaded with the diagonal hatch is our new proposed piece of property that the BCM plans to build on. The other 2 parcels, kind of the long skinny one on the west side, or the tall skinny one on the west side, and then the big square on the east side, those are the 2 existing pieces of property. So what we're showing is that the new property lines would be the area hatched, the big square that's hatched, and then sort of the upside down L shape that would be left over. That's what's reflected in this one that I just gave you to try to help clarify that, because that aerial image doesn't
Do you mind
appear
repeating
correct. Yeah. If we disregard the shaded square, we have a tall piece of property on the west, kind of long, tall and skinny, and we have what appears to be a larger square to the east of that. Those are two parcels.
Right.
Those are the two parcels that we're manipulating and creating the shaded area that you see as a new parcel. And then what's left over is the upside down L remaining from those other two parcels.
So the unshaded to the northeast?
That is a part of this. I mean, that's an incorrect drawing. I don't know what to. So the BCM also owns, they were gifted last year a piece of property north of what you're seeing now that we're not touching.
Yeah, I think the map that's shown reflects county records.
If the plat,
Mhm.
you see this little piece of a parcel up here in the kind of northwest corner, that is a parcel that they also own as of 2022, I think.
Okay.
But that is not a parcel that we're impacting.
So my concern or question would be regarding the parcel to the north. That if we are addressing a replat, you know, the city so far has made recommendations that we correct whatever issues that there may be existing. The one to the north, even if Montgomery moves up to the north to abut these, still not going to satisfy that. Do you know if the owners would consider adjoining the north lot to the one on the south?
I mean, that's definitely a question I could propose to the owners. I think that piece of property that you're talking about to the far north is landlocked now. Yeah, and so, you know, our understanding is that we would not touch that. It's landlocked now and will be landlocked after this interior line movement also. I understand what you're saying, but I would have to propose that to the owner. I can't make that decision.
Does that make sense, the question that I have? I want to make sure that we treat applicants in fairness, and, there's been others that we have, made the recommendation of joining lots together so that they abut streets. In fairness, would it not be the same to do so here?
I guess to me, I'm not that worried about it because we do have the large L shape. So if we were doing something with the rest of that property, if we were cutting off the east part that's not shaded, I would be more concerned about that because then we're leaving a huge chunk back there locked. But at this point, there's a huge L shape kind of on the side. There's an L shape on top. I mean, I don't. Okay.
According to
maybe
county
I'm-
records, the L shape on top is a separate owner. It's an individual.
Okay. So maybe I misunderstood that because I thought y'all owned the whole chunk, and you were just building on the shaded portion.
Yeah, I wish I could point if there was a pointer, but
Okay.
So,
you
being that
see
it's a
the
separate parcel
upside
that
down
could be
L
sold-
on the plat that I just gave you?
Mhm.
So that is owned by the BCM. There's a little parcel, like a 50-foot wide parcel
Shane, you
in the
wanna come
north.
huddle?
Yeah,
You want to
he
come
should
huddle?
be.
We don't have a pointer, but
Mhm. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Mhm.
I don't know that there's a reason for or against doing that. Other than that, with that little piece of property in the far northwest corner was something that was just deeded over to them last year. So I'm not sure what their plans for that are.
so Whitney, I guess to further explain with it not being a separate parcel,
No, I got you.
it could be
now.
sold.
I'm on the same page.
Okay,
We're good.
all right. I'm pulling up the county records to make sure I'm thinking about this correctly.
Shane, you say the applicant does own the upside down L to the north and east of the subject property?
So they own all of this, and they also own this little piece that sticks up here. That overlay is incorrect. I'm not sure what, yeah, I mean, it's a Google Earth overlay that's not
I
correct.
understand it's not exactly where it needs to be, but
Oh, I don't even think it shows the properties appropriately.
well, that's what the public records show, that are based on county records.
Yeah.
That there's nothing that I can see that shows that the applicant owns. And that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But I don't see a deed that, you know,
They own this. They do not own to the east.
where does this parcel lie as to the shaded area? Is this the east side of the shaded area? Or is this outside of the shaded area on that map?
That is this is outside of the shaded area.
But it's your claim that the applicant owns that parcel?
They do, yes.
You happen to have the deed or book and page on that?
Yeah, we've got the deed in our packet, yeah. I think the property, again, I'm gonna have to point to this because I don't have a pointer up there, but the skinny piece of property that is here, I think they've had possession of that since like 74.
Mhm.
The one to the east of that, which is this larger block, I think they've had possession since maybe 2011.
Do you happen to know from whom they received that?
It's in our packet. You want me to pull it out for you? Or you've got it? Okay.
So just personal opinion and to clarify, I'm all for the project. I definitely think it's an appropriate use of space, appropriate for the area, obviously. I just want to be consistent in recommendation, and having an orphan parcel there to the north seems inconsistent to me. So that's really my only hesitation, not the proposed use.
Even though it is a currently orphaned piece of property, I just want to make sure that we're on
Yes,
the same page there.
While we're in the
Yeah.
replatting process, I think we need to address existing issues. We've made the same request of others.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions?
I will say, just kind of in counterpoint to that, I don't disagree with the idea that we don't want orphan pieces of property, but that kind of goes back to our same discussion that we had about the exact same issue last time, is I also don't like the idea that people can't do what they want to do with their piece of property, and the city is kind of running them through extra measures sometimes that may or may not be appropriate in the overarching goal, which I understand why the city's doing it, but at the same time, it's very frustrating to projects where we're now having to deal with things that we've never had to deal with before, so.
See, your platted area is the shaded area. This is apparently the Heist property.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the property that's outside of the shaded area.
Yes, this shaded area is our proposed.
But that's
new-
the shaded
this
area on
proposed
there.
Is our proposed new parcel.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the statement
This
that
upside down L is still their property.
is
It's
still
just
whose property?
The BCM.
It's not though, per the public records, and even per this document that's contained within your application, it's purportedly owned by the Heises.
Yeah, that's this piece of property right here. I'm gonna draw here. They currently own these two parcels of land, plus this parcel that's up here that we're not doing anything with. The proposed replat is to make this a lot.
Okay. So
And
it's
this
kind of
upside
coincidental
down.
that you had two
L's.
Yes.
upside down
Correct.
L's.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Mark, my understanding, regardless of how we draw this, there's still an orphaned piece at the north, correct?
Maybe two. But
Maybe two.
yes.
Well, you mean this one may be orphaned?
Well, this one and this one.
Well, this goes away.
Okay.
So
So,
it becomes an L-shaped piece.
and so one.
And then this one would be orphaned,
Okay.
which is currently orphaned.
Is there any reason why they would not want to join these
I
just
don't
by
think
deed?
there's a reason they would not want to.
I mean, it should be
It just-
simple just by deed to.
Yes.
Okay. That alleviates the confusion. There's an internal upside down L.
There's an
and now
there's an
an
internal
external.
L and an external
Okay,
L.
all right.
Yes.
Do you have any comments? Okay. What you guys? While we're waiting, I'll see if anybody else wants to speak. Is there anyone who would like to speak for or against? Any discussion? What do you think about a recommendation for approval contingent upon replatting so that the northern is not orphaned?
I would support that. I mean, I don't have any issue with that, but to be quite honest, I don't really have any issue with leaving orphan pieces of property either, so that's not my deal, but, I mean, my attitude is if they're orphaned, and I really don't care, but that's up to potential buyers to note that problem and deal with it. At the same time, I know why the city cares, so, but I would certainly be in support of a motion where that was kind of the compromise reached.
So here would be my question. And this may be a Markham question, but if it's approval contingent upon including this orphaned piece as a part of the L, the remaining L, does that require re-advertisement and rezoning process? Since they already own that land?
I don't think so. I think they could just do an exchange of deeds, and then they could conceivably, if they agreed to do that, they could have that accomplished by next Tuesday.
Yes.
And say they've already taken the recommendation of this body, and the council could then do with it what they wish.
Okay.
Were you about to say something? Do we have a motion? Do you want me to make it? I would move to approve contingent on the northern parcels being conjoined to alleviate any orphan property.
I would second.
Have a motion, a second. Call for a vote, please.
Thomas Newsom,
Because of potential future interest of the university, I'm going to abstain.
Whitney Kerr,
Yes.
Clint Horner,
Yes.
Shane Knight, Drew Jackson.
Yes.
I would like to explain that my abstention is not a show of not support for this project. I'm completely in support of it.
Same. Thank you. Three C, discussion, consideration, and possible action on PC 2023-15, a rezoning request from A1 General Agriculture to R1 Single Family Residential for property located near Larkspur Land and Overland Drive.
I believe this is a final plat request and a rezoning request also. They approached staff regarding the rezoning of this property with a desire of building a single-family home or residential development. Notifications have been made to surrounding property owners. We received one letter of protest regarding this final plat. And as I also said, they'd like to rezone this also from agriculture. No, wait. It's mainly made up of agriculture. This final plat request is generally in line with future land use maps. Staff signed off on approval of the final plat because it does meet all requirements.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, again, this body can take whatever action they want to, but just in the interest of consistency, this is exactly the same issue that this body faced for the property up on Peppernut. This is a parcel that has been cut off from a larger parcel. It does abut a public street, but it leaves to the west of it a parcel that does not. And so the larger parcel owner sold this parcel in 2020 in violation of 155.006 of the code without doing a plat, and then that purchaser then turned around and sold it to the applicant in 2021. So that's part of the deal, is that this applicant wasn't the original purchaser from the larger parcel owner, but still faces the same issue in that the larger parcel owner sold this off in violation of 155.006 without platting. And so you've got exactly the same issue as other cases that you've had, particularly the one up on Peppernut. But so just so this body's aware, that's where this parcel stands.
Mr. Markham, just to clarify, you're talking about the land
To the west.
immediately west
Correct. And even though there's some related individuals that own some property attaching to that larger parcel, essentially that larger parcel would be orphaned without access to a public street, and originally this subject parcel was sold in violation of the plating requirements.
So you're talking about the related entity on Wilson still being a separate entity? Is that what you're?
That's right. I mean, this is an LLC, a corporate entity that owns the larger parcel to the west, and there's presumably a controlling member or managing member of that LLC that does own some property to the south of the larger parcel that abuts Wilson, but it's not the same entity.
Got it. Thank you. Any questions for staff? Have there been any changes since the last time we heard this one?
No, sir, not. Oh, there was. Huh? What? Oh, yeah, divide that into 3 lots. That's the only thing, the change.
Would the applicant like to speak?
Applicant's not here, but I'm here.
Sure, if you just come to the mic and state your name, please. Thanks.
I'm Clay Cecil. I'm the realtor that's been helping her with this. So I understand what you're talking about with the orphan property. What is the precedent? What has been resolved with these other properties that have been orphaned? What have you guys been doing to address those?
I'll let Mr. Markham speak to that if he's willing.
Well, I think there's some history that was permitted, or at least maybe ignored, if not expressly permitted, but there's been efforts recently to curtail that.
Okay.
Because it directly violates the purpose of the plat. Purposes of plat is efficient use, so that when a development occurs, all the land is usable. And in this case, if you were to allow that east parcel, the subject parcel, to be carved off,
Mm-hmm.
you've got a non-compliant parcel behind it, because without easements and there's no public street that abuts it, and there's not really even a public street that could be built there without going across somebody else's property.
Okay.
And so there's been some efforts by this body and by council to curtail the approval of lots that do abut the public street that have been impermissibly carved off in violation of the ordinance.
Okay. So some have been permitted, some haven't. I know it's no fault of the applicant. And then were you stating that the property directly to the west is owned by an LLC entity?
It is.
Right? And then the property to the south of the applicant's property is owned by somebody that's inside that entity? Did I hear that right?
At least some of it is. I don't know how many
Okay.
parcels are owned, but there's not common ownership, but there's somewhat related ownership. But
Gotcha. So they could work out access to the street among themselves,
they could, but they haven't.
but they haven't. Right. Okay.
I mean,
That was just a question I had, because my view, it's not the applicant's fault that she purchased a property from someone that purchased a property that was sold illegally or in violation of. You know, right now she's stuck with the property. Really nothing you can do with an ag property in town. So that's the whole point of us trying to get this rezoned and replatted, so she can sell it, and then we could add 3 new residential lots to the city as well.
I mean, I agree that certainly purchaser, the owner here, the applicant may not have known, but there was notice. That's why we have abstracts. She was on constructive notice, at least, that her prior owner had only had the property for a year, had purchased it from the larger parcel owner to the west, and that was done in violation of the ordinance. She may not have had actual notice or known that,
Right.
but she had constructive notice, and so that's kind of what we have to go off of, is not what people knew, but what they should have known.
Okay. And then some we have approved and some we haven't, it's just,
I can't think of any that have been strictly approved. There probably are, if you dig deep enough, there probably are things that have happened in the past that don't strictly meet the ordinances, but there has been efforts in the last, the last few years to make sure the ordinances are enforced, and this body's been a part of that, the council's been a part of that, so.
okay. So what would have to happen with the orphan property? Would it just have to be platted, given access?
There's any of a number of
Gotcha.
options, but that's not really for.
Got it. Would it be on them as the owners of the orphan property to figure out a way if this plat gets approved? Would it be their responsibility?
I don't know conceivably,
Okay.
yes, but.
Okay, that's my only question.
On a personal note, I certainly empathize with you and the owner on trying to get something accomplished with land that you own. To Mr. Markham's point, we are trying to follow the rules in place, and I understand that caught your client in a difficult position. So certainly have empathy with that, and I'll say if there's any way that we can help either through conversation, be happy to do that.
Just vote. Just vote it through. That would probably be, that would help out the most.
Maybe, yeah.
So, but I just don't understand so if this isn't approved, what is the recourse? you
So
know?
this is a recommending body only,
Right.
so it goes to council from here. They make the final decision
Okay.
on that. As far as where your client goes from here, maybe seeking legal counsel and what their options are might be the best option.
Okay. Okay. That's all I can think of.
Any further questions? Thanks. Is there anyone who would like to speak for or against? Any discussion? Not everybody at once. Do we have a motion?
In order to push this through council, I will make a motion that we deny.
A motion, is there a second? I'll second. We have a motion, a second. Call for a vote, please.
Thomas Newsom,
Yes.
Whitney Kerr,
No.
Clinton Horner,
Yes.
Drew Jackson.
Yes. So, Mr. Markham, before we move on, I guess the discussion ended up being about the plat. Do we need a separate motion for the rezone and then for the replat?
Probably so, if that was two different agenda items.
So I believe the first was rezone, so we may have gotten off track.
Yeah. Yes. Or you could not take any action, I guess, and it doesn't get rezoned, but I would take a vote. Somebody needs to move to approve or deny.
Okay, so was the motion for denial of the rezoning or the replat?
It's for denial of the replat, I believe.
So we need a motion for the rezone. Mr. Cecil, if you don't mind me asking, do you know if the owner would like to proceed with their request to rezone?
Well, the way I understand it, you have to replat to rezone, right?
Other way around.
Okay, because we tried the other way around. I think we tried to rezone first, and you told us to
I think the comment was to bring them at the same time so that they could be addressed at the same time, right?
Right, okay,
Not necessarily one before the other.
okay.
So I don't have any issue with this parcel being residential.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Is there anyone who needs to speak for or against the rezoning request? We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion to second. Call for a vote, please.
Thomas Newsom,
Yes.
Whitney Kerr,
Yes.
Clint Horner,
Yes.
Drew Jackson.
Yes. Three E is discussion, consideration, and possible action on PC 2023-25, a plan unit development request for property located near Wilson Street and North First Avenue. Mr. Hightower.
Yes, sir. This applicant is asking for a PUD for mixed residential type development that will include multifamily homes. The concept plan shows 12 multifamily buildings, and applicant stating there will be 360 units. This is located on 20.5 acres and currently is a vacant lot. Surrounding area is mixed residential and agricultural zoned properties. They do meet the requirements for the lot area that is required within the requested plan unit development. It meets setbacks, parking, as well as having sidewalk, street lights in the new development, within new ordinances. Maintenance and operations, M&O would like water and sewer upgraded. Fire marshal has asked the applicant to provide a site plan showing compliance with 2018 IFC. Community Development and Neighborhood Services has commented that the applicant will be required to obtain a stormwater permit from DEQ, provide that permit and stormwater pollution prevention program plans to the city before building permits can be obtained. And it does fall in line with future land map use. And they did have one, on the parking, they revised the parking. Did that get in the packets? Okay. And the applicants are here, so if they would like to speak.
Mr. Hightower, what is the reason that this is coming to us as a PUD? I mean, what are the exceptions or additions that we're making?
I'm not sure.
Looks like maybe the applicant has the answer.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
address that.
he can address this.
David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant, Don Dillingham, who is also here with us. So the reason it's a PUD is for the parking specifically. We believe that the code parking requirements would overpark us by a significant degree. So what we're asking for is on the 1-bedroom units to require 1.5 spaces, and on the 2-bedroom units, 2 spaces. That's in line with, we think, most new parking regs that exist for multifamily. We're more than confident that we will not underpark ourselves. In terms of all the other items that he spoke of, in terms of public works and fire, whatever the city requires us to do, we'll do. We do not seek to not meet any of those obligations. So we have civil engineers that'll work with your staff to ensure we meet all those requirements.
So it really boils down to more like a parking density, if you will.
Correct. In fact, if you look at the zoning, this site, we've got R3 to the north, to the east, to the south. A portion of our site is also zoned R3. There's 3 different zoning categories within our tract, R1, R2, and R3. So the PUD will allow all of the site to be R3, adjust those parking ratios. We think that the facade requirements that we put in the PUD are actually higher and a heightened requirement than what your base code would require. So we think you're going to get a better product because of that too.
Thank you.
Yes, and we're happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Any other questions for staff? the applicant have anything else that you wanted to add or comment on?
No, like
Okay.
I said, we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak for or against? Quiet crowd.
Can the owner answer just a question? This on your exhibit C, you've got to the, I guess, the southeast part of the property, a forest walking trail. Is that slated for that because of just the is that floodplain, or is that a area that's not able to? Am I looking at the wrong map?
No, down here, this
Yeah.
this little
I mean,
it's got some topographical issues, and just the
Okay.
cost to develop that part
Okay.
becomes not worth it. So turn it into a walking trail perhaps provides an amenity to the development.
there could be, I guess there could be some potential walking access to the south.
Sure.
Okay.
Is there a creek that runs through this property currently?
A creek?
To the east of it.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
I think it's to the east of it.
Yeah.
Chocowall Creek.
Yeah, because that's a street. Yeah, no, there's not a creek on here currently.
I think there is some drainage, not necessarily the creek.
I was gonna say, I wasn't sure what it was, but I
Yeah.
knew there were some big culverts in that area, so that was what spurred my question.
And our site plan does reflect 3 separate detention areas, so we understand that there are some potential issues, and the civil engineer has accounted for it in this conceptual plan.
Wouldn't you, if there were a motion to approve, we would need to include the staff? I'll have to look that up.
I do have a question for the city on that one. At one point in time, there were discussions of some additional stoplights being put on First. Is there any city plan to put a stoplight there at the intersection onto First Street? at this
No,
point?
that's all ODOT. We don't have any control over what they put on First Street.
If I may briefly, Mr. Markham did say that any motion needs to include that piece about the parking.
Mr. Hightower, I wanted to go over the list of the staff requests again, make sure we get that right on the motion, if that's okay. So I see the sewer upgrade,
And water.
sewer and water upgrade. Provide site plan showing compliance with 2018 IFC.
Yes, sir.
And what was Mr. Wall's?
Stormwater permit from DEQ.
And engineering studies.
Yeah, the stormwater pollution prevention program to the city
Just
before,
looking at his comment, he said no engineering data had been provided, parentheses, roads, utilities, drainage, etc.
right. Have to have those plans before
So, some
building
engineering
permit.
data.
Yep.
So the access to this PUD is going to be Wilson Street? Okay. So 6th doesn't get you there. It's going to have to be Wilson Street.
Correct.
Okay.
If you would come to the mic and state your name, please.
I'm Georgianne Gibson, and I own the property across the street on Wilson Street North, in that area. I've just come from a large complex in Denison, Texas, back to Durant. And my question is, you're talking about 2 bedrooms, 2 cars. What is going to be your maximum as far as the living in a 2-bedroom? How many people are you going to be able to accommodate in a 2-bedroom apartment?
So, I mean, that's typically a fire code issue, that's not a
Well,
zoning issue.
okay,
Building code, I mean, we agree to comply with all building code requirements, fire code requirements, that's what dictates occupancy level.
Okay. The reason I ask that is because having lived in this environment now for a while, I can understand you can have 5 and 6 people coming in and living. You might have 6 cars. And I live around the corner now, still not too far from this area, knowing cars coming and going. And that's just my question as to if you have 2 bedrooms and that's going to be your max in this complex. Is that correct? The 2 bedrooms? Okay. I don't know. Yeah, okay. I was just curious when you were talking about accommodating the parking, for 2 cars. Because having had the experience of living in this situation, I don't see that, that's going to be the case. I just think there's going to be more and more, and you're going to have more spaces that you're going to need out there, to accommodate the people that are going to live in the complex. That's my question and concern as to just how many. That was it. Because we had access to 5. We could have 5 and 2 bedrooms, and I don't know what Oklahoma's is. I've never lived in an Oklahoma apartment lately, so I didn't know. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will note, I don't think we've opened it up for commentary for or against, so.
Say that again.
I don't think we've opened it up for commentary for or against.
I think I can do it again.
I didn't, I may have just not heard it.
Is there anyone who'd like to speak for or against? So, Mr. Hightower, I see that staff does recommend, so we've looked at parking request and feel like that's adequate.
Yes.
So I'm gonna say, I mean, my concern with the project, and it's not the applicant, it's not the particular piece of property, it's just, again, that infrastructure support, that road through Wilson, it's already winding through an apartment complex, and it's small and it's dangerous at night. People are parking on the side of the road, and it's a little bit of a nightmare to get through, at least the first part of that. It connects to First Street, so the idea of adding 360 more units on that road, that is potentially a driving nightmare. And again, that has nothing to do with the applicant, that has nothing to do with the project itself, it's just the infrastructure support there is not great for this.
What's the solution?
We can always look at that at plating. We'll have to come back and plat before we can turn dirt, so we'll get with your engineering department.
I mean, that's always gonna be a city issue, because ultimately that's who the responsibility comes back to, is the city. It's not their problem to fix Wilson Street to meet the demand, it's the city's problem to fix it. I'm just noting it's gonna be a problem.
We certainly have inadequate parking from First Street down Wilson. So I second that thought on it being an issue. My question here is that in the purview of this commission to consider on recommending or approval?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that's just something for the city to consider and be aware of. I mean, like I said, it has nothing to do with the applicant, it has nothing to do with a particular piece of property, it's more the infrastructure around the property.
Is there any other discussion? Is there a motion? motion? Anybody? Yes, it does. So go ahead and make the motion, is that what you're saying? So I will move to approve contingent on city receiving a set of engineering data, stormwater permit from DEQ, sewer and water upgrades. Hold please. That were provided a site plan showing compliance with the 2018 IFC, and that this motion also includes acceptance of the revised parking density of 1.5 parking spaces for a single unit and 2 for 2-bedroom. Mr. Hightower, does that include everything? Philip, did you have anything else that we needed to add to that motion?
No, I don't believe so. I think so.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
Thomas Newsom,
Yes.
Whitney Kerr,
Yes.
Clint Horner,
Yes.
Drew Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. 3F, discussion, consideration, and possible action on PC 2023-26, a preliminary plat extension for property located near Larkspur Lane and Prairie Crossing.
Yes, sir. This is Heritage Crossing to the north. Yes. He came to us. His deadline is up September 14th, 2023. He's asking for a 6-month extension. The university projects held him up out there, and that's the reason for he's wanting for his extension so he can complete the project. And there's no changes to the plat or anything.
Any questions for staff? Would the applicant like to speak?
Yes, when Danielle was
If you don't
here-
mind, come to the microphone and state your name since we're recording. Thanks.
Buddy Holder.
Thanks.
And when Danielle was here, we was talking to her, we're trying not to turn traffic over onto University until that is completed. And, so she had said we are looking at phasing it, phase 1, 2, and 3. The problem is, we never dreamed University would take this long. And, you know, we have a substantial amount of money laying in the ground and on the ground. We would like to, we done the cement treated base last week and are finishing it up this week. We would like to proceed with paving phase 1 as soon as we get done, if that is possible. And that's why we're trying to get in right now. Because it'll be about 2 weeks, we'd probably be ready to pave that first phase, which that still don't turn traffic loose. That's just, it would be phase 2 that would turn traffic out of Madison Ridge all up to the north and bring it right down onto the University project. Which once the street lights working at University and Radio Road or University Place, it should be sufficient for the traffic to come that way.
if you don't mind, I do have a question for you before you go.
Okay.
Does your original plan, it seems like we may have spoke about this before, it did include sidewalks and street lamps and those?
It did not, because
Okay.
we was before that, but neither did Rodeo Hills. But we have been trying to get y'all to adopt that, so we will automatically put it in there. That is, I mean, we need sidewalks in every subdivision.
The reason I ask is the others that have come to us asking for an extension, we've asked that they meet the updated guidelines.
Yeah,
which
we
includes.
was already planning on it
Okay.
anyway.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, Rodeo Hills wasn't that way either, but we put sidewalks in there as soon as y'all passed it.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, buddy.
Any other questions for staff or the applicant?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I want to see if anybody wants to speak for or against. We have a motion, a second. Call for vote, please.
Thomas Newsom,
Yes.
Whitney Kerr,
Yes.
Clint Horner,
Yes.
Drew Jackson.
Yes. Any new
Thank y'all.
business? Any new business? Guess not. Motion for adjourn.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Yes, I vote to adjourn.
Thomas Newsom,
Yes.
Whitney Kerr,
Yes.
Clint Horner, Drew Jackson.
Yes.